Jack Luck and my subscribers. Wanted to do a brief video just talking about what I view as being important and what kind of drives my decision making about Israel and Palestine. And honestly, I mean, as much as I appreciate you going into the history of the conflict, and I think that's also a useful thing, I tend not to look as much at the history because what can you do about it? It's there, and if you want to have peace, I think in a large part you're going to have peace in spite of the history, which has been pretty awful, on all sides. I mean, I'm sure, if an Israeli wants to point to horrific things that Palestinians have done, he can point to horrific things that Palestinians have done. And Palestinians certainly, likewise, have the same opportunity as regards Israelis. So, if we're going to get wrapped up in history, everybody's got their own history, everybody's got their own perspective, and everybody's going to be able to find sufficient justification for whatever hateful beliefs they have. If they don't want peace, if they want to cling to that stuff. But I mean, if you want to go the way of peace, I think it's important to have, more an accurate assessment of how the power is right now, and, who is controlling who at the moment. And I think when you get down to this, I think it's clear, who has the power and the control in the current situation. I mean, it's certainly Israel. I mean, people cannot leave or enter Gaza without Israel's permission. And more fundamentally, who does Israel want to keep out? I mean, well, just in general, everyone. But specifically, they want to keep out journalists. And to me, this is like an auto fail when you want to keep out journalists, because that means you're afraid of something. There's something that journalists are going to report on that is not going to be looked on favorably by the rest of the world. And that's honestly what it gets down to. And the major news organizations have been decrying this decision by Israel. And they should be, because clearly this decision on Israel's part means that they have something to hide. I mean, otherwise, why would you tolerate the censure? I mean, it's not like any government, bans journalists knowing, or not knowing that the journalists are going to put up a stink about it. Of course they are. So you always have to kind of go backwards and say, okay, it's not just that the government wants to hide something. It's that the government is willing to put up with the censure that they're going to get, the criticism that they're going to get, because they feel that keeping the information hidden is more important. So this is what people need to keep in mind, because this is a cost assessment that has been done by the Israeli government. And they have decided that in spite of the fact that they're being almost universally vilified for this decision, they have and knew that they would be, that despite this, they have continued this policy. And I think that speaks volumes about how important it is for them to keep this stuff hidden as much as humanly possible. So, without any kind of knowledge of history, just looking at the current situation, who has the power now, how that power is being applied, and the fact that it's very much a deliberate decision by the Israelis, and they're doing it very much in full knowledge of the consequences, to their stature, that I think this is what makes it all the more important that we do get journalists, that we break the siege of Gaza, that people are allowed to openly go into and exit, and that they stop walling it off. This whole idea of walling off, civilizations, building walls, I think is frankly very revolting to me. Um, you know, you see it in this tendency all over the place anymore, and it's really bothersome. I mean, I remember in one of my earlier videos talking, reading a quotation actually from an Iraqi talking about how they're walling off entire Baghdad neighborhoods, and instilling checkpoints and making it hard for people to get in and out of certain areas. And then these walls are guarded by the worst kind of thugs in the civilization. And if you don't think that this can come home to this country, I just recently saw, by recently I mean sometime in the last 4 months, something on Democracy Now! Talking about how their chief of police in Washington, D.C. was talking about having stop points, checkpoints, leading into and out of all the most dangerous areas of Washington, D.C. And if you wanted to enter any of these areas, you would have to go through the checkpoints. You would have to explain to the officer who you were visiting and why. And if you refused to answer the police officer's questions, you could be arrested for failing to cooperate with the police. So that's all of this wall mentality coming back to our own country. And you see it in the gated communities. It could be exclusive or it could be inclusive. It could be, but no matter how you do it, it's wrong. So I know I've kind of gotten a little bit far afield there. I initially wanted to just talk about power relationships, but I also wanted to show how this ties into kind of a general philosophical framework that we're all buying into, and which is being generally and liberally applied all around the world in lots of different areas. But as always, you can feel free to argue.